Christmas with the In-Laws by Quintin Forrest. In the days leading up to the announcement of my second wedding, I found myself watching a lot of cartoons. The dilemma of the Roadrunner. What would Wile E. Coyote do if he ever caught the bird? What would give his life meaning without the chase? I guess this is something a lot of chaps think about. No more death traps or explosions. Thoughts of an idle man, though. By now it was no secret to the UK public that after a whirlwind romance following our meeting on celebrity first dates, Delilah and I were to be married in June. That this would be the next royal wedding, England flags all over the shop, and there was nothing I could do. That even if I'd run off to Bolivia or somewhere with no extradition treaty, it would be no escape from my obligations to my fiancé and Delilah's tween terrorist of a son, little Elton. I hadn't always enjoyed an entirely cordial relationship with the Red Tops, it was true, but now approval ratings had skyrocketed and the tabs were in a frenzy. I tried everything I could do to put the brakes on. I'd even considered taking little Elton to Alton Towers and just leaving him there. Gosh, Del, maybe I'm not cut out to be a father after all. But she, and more to the point, the great British public, seemed intent on the full soup and fish at Westminster Cathedral. If I backed out now, it might have been as damaging a blow to the collective psyche of the sort of people who watch royal weddings as the cancellation of Strictly, or, God forbid, the Great British Bake Off. The public could rot in hell as far as I was concerned, but could even the H-Meister disappoint them so? The roguish rebel thing would wilt. I'd go from People's Prince to Royal Love Rat at the click of a mice, and probably never be able to set foot in the UK ever again. A sense of fatalism overtook me, and it was in this spirit that I, now a depleted force, burdened by my responsibilities, weighed down by the pressures of a royal engagement, agreed to Christmas. I would meet Delilah's folks, and she would meet mine. I lost the coin toss, so it was her lot first. Christmas Eve then. Delilah's family, with whom I hadn't had much to do with thus far, were old-school East End Cockney types who'd moved out to Basildon late last century after an upturn in the family fortunes. It was like walking on the set of The Only Way is Essex. We went to a pub for pie and mash, and then back to Grandpa Frank's palatial mock Tudor mansion. All of this being photographed constantly, though if I'd been Grandpa Frank, I'm not sure I'd have been so keen on so much press attention, or in fact any at all, seeing as the gaff looked like it may not have been acquired by entirely legal means. Anyway, back at the gaff, the party was in full swing. 5 or 6 tankards of ale to the good, I was summoned by Grandpa Frank, who was a sprightly 60, lots of gold, holding court in what may as well have been the royal gazebo at the far end of the swimming pool. Next to him was Nanny Nell, who, if anything, seemed even more threatening, like the Cray twins' mother might have been, had the lads kept a lid on their antics. On the other side was Uncle Ted. Uncle Ted, one sensed, was the more prosperous wing of the clan. There'd been a falling out with Delilah's mother after she dated some chap from Brixton, if you know what I mean. Anyway, I cringed up a chair. So, you got security, mate? Was Uncle Ted's opening gambit, making light conversation. Who watch out for you, no matter what? Yeah? ex-SAS, right? So they could sort it if some mouthy little toe rag needed a slap. Well, it would depend. Depend on what? Seems a bit unmanly though, doesn't it? Hiding behind your soldier boy's skirts. Uncle Ted was a large man with a shaved head and a Union Jack tie, so you'd have thought he'd have been a fan of the Swindsers. But apparently not. England was not England no more. What was I going to do about it?
That's enough, Ted,
said Grandpa Frank. I was only putting his plonker, Dad. Having a bit of a giggle.
Yeah, but the boy's family now. Soon will be.
So, guys, I said, after a lull in the conversation, you're in nightclub security, right? That was one of our business interests. We're semi-retired these days, of course. You can tell your boys at Special Branch that. Oh, have they been a bit intrusive? You could say that. Yes. Well, there's a vetting procedure, which you pass with flying colours, obviously. Obviously. But tell me, guys, I slurred, rigid with beer and terror. Just between us, what's it like being a crime family? Grandpa Frank looked at me with cold, dead, assessing eyes.
Don't you know? How many did you kill in Afghanistan, boy?
Ah, I said, wishing I hadn't started this now. Well, that's a state secret. We don't talk about that.
Well, there you go then, said Grandpa Frank. Now, our Delilah reckons you've been having second thoughts, dragging your heels about the nuptials.
I wouldn't say that exactly.
Understandable in a young man, few pre-wedding jitters, as long as that's all they are. Because if they were to turn into something else, we would not be amused. Would we now? No.
Snarled the terrifying old bat. Her fingernails were rattling on the table in a way you'd have hope no one ever does that on your coffin.
We would not. You will pose for the photographs. You will have your face on the fucking ceremonial mugs, and you will do anything, and I mean anything, to upset my granddaughter before she's walked down the aisle at Westminster Cathedral. I will rip your fucking bollocks off with me dentures.
And those nonsense from the SAS won't be able to help you neither, Ted added.
Ted, sighed Frank, you're ruining the moment. Not as much as I'll ruin this punch though, but no.
I see. You do realise I could have you seen to, right? I bluffed. Look around you, you ginger twat. You ain't among friends here. What? I could have you filleted, kippered, and on the slabs at Billingsgate Market before sun-up tomorrow. No, I don't think you could, I said, putting my drink down and then picking it up again. What was I arguing? I'd seen enough early Pinter Plays to know that this wasn't just idle pub banter. I rang security, and once I'd been bundled safely into the SUV, I rang Nanny Nell and told her I was calling in an airstrike on Basildon. She didn't like the sound of that. There was an explosion of expletives, I'd be skinned alive and so forth. It was only then I'd realised I'd forgotten Delilah and little Elton. God! So that was Christmas Eve. Dark. Well, Christmas Day, hopefully lighter, but what are the chances? Delilah and I flew north to Balmoral. By this stage, I was hoping the private jet we got from Stansted would crash with no survivors. Her Majesty, the QE2, is an enigma. How does one stay on the UK throne for that long without a stiff upper lip approach to suspect moral behaviour? As Grandpa Frank had observed, we are all criminals. Still, I was nervous, observing Delilah, and in particular, little Elton, through a haze of Scotch and Valium. Elton was dancing around the plain Earl in a West Ham top, and Delilah was pointedly not talking to me. The ice and the onboard air was as thick and as heavy as the chunks floating in my glass. Del, I said, hoping to ease the atmosphere a bit, do you want a line of ketamine? She brightened. Yeah. Go on. We repaired to the facilities. This was as close to the Mile High Club as we were ever going to get, I thought. Though I probably shouldn't have said that. Actually, I'm not sure I did. For a while back there, I knew the secret of the universe. By the time we hit Balmoral, after what seemed like 10 minutes or a century, I was moving like an astronaut, lost in alien territory. But nothing could have delighted La Middleton more than the sight of us, the second royal family, as we staggered out of the Range Rover.
Have a nice flight, did we?
La Middleton frosted.
Yeah!
Shouted little Elton, who'd finally been persuaded to put on some trousers.
We did! Enjoy it while it lasts. What do you mean by that, babe?
Delilah wondered, lighting a joint.
When I am queen, there are going to be some cutbacks. When?
Delilah said.
Don't you mean if? I don't believe so. Well, you best believe it, bitch.
We hadn't always had the easiest relationships, but as La Middleton's face visibly paled, I remembered why I liked Delilah. Maybe the wedding could go ahead after all. In my journals so far, I've put off describing Delilah. You don't put your friends under scrutiny, even if they hate you. What I can say, though, is that Delilah is a strong, powerful, and independent lady with a gym-toned body and a lot of tattoos. As she sauntered into the castle, I could hear the Duke of Edinburgh observe, "Bloody hell, Cavendish, is that a bloke in a dress?"
You want to check out the merchandise, Grandad?
said Delilah, unbuttoning her top.
No! Shouted La Middleton, eyes wild. Not in front of the Duke of Edinburgh! Why not? Because of tradition.
Del, I said, he is rather frail.
Why not, Delilah?
Said the QE2.
It's nothing the old fool hasn't seen before. Now you, my dear, must sit next to me at dinner.
So, contrary to all expectations, Delilah was a hit. This is absolutely the last thing La Middleton had bargained for. In various states of disrepair, then, we adjourned to the dining room. Grandpa Phil, uncharacteristically silent on the subject of the hoi polloi or anything else, visibly mesmerized by Delilah's décolletage. La Middleton was looking at me like I was Dr. Faustus, with an evil demon she didn't know what to make of, hovering next to my shoulder. When there was an alarm from one of the upstairs bedrooms. Little Elton! We'd forgotten about him. Apparently he was on the loose with Princes George and Louis, in full Richard III mode, teaching the young heirs to sing West Ham terrace anthems. He'd got some babies from somewhere, and he was wearing one of La Middleton's bras on his head. As the three boys chorused, "I'm forever blowing bubbles."
Stop that at once! La Middleton commanded. Louis is only 7!
6, 7. George cackled triumphantly. I was proud of the lad, as she eventually restrained him. Particular points for style when he said, as the Duchess of Cambridge smacked his bottom, that he was into it, babe. He now enjoys the rare distinction of being banned forever from UK palace territory by a monarch who's yet to make queen. It's going to cause problems at the wedding, but I wonder, because if I try to keep my motives obscure, even to myself, if this isn't maybe the ideal outcome. Is a chap a good chap? Or is a chap a bad chap? I still like to think that the H-Meister is on the side of the angels. But putting ketamine in little Elton's festive Sunny D may not feature in the credit columns. Do I want Grandpa Frank and Nanny Nell on top of the tabloids, the great British public and La Middleton as mortal foes? I'll have to think about it, I suppose. Irritating as it is when stories end on a cliffhanger, as I write this in the small hours of Boxing Day, it's quite hard to predict what the new year will bring. As I once read on a gents' wall in Nairobi, there are no strangers, just enemies you haven't met. In which spirit, God help us, everyone.